Well, hey there, welcome to my house of cards. My name's Hoodlie, and today we're just gonna look over a deck profile that I've been working on for quite a little bit, ever since these guys came out, because I just think they're neat. These are Ancient Warriors. They're a bunch of beast warriors, themed after the Romance of the Three Kingdoms, well, not the Romance of the Three Kingdoms, but the Three Kingdoms era for Chinese history, which I think is really interesting. I'm not really a huge history buff, but I just like how they designed these guys, because their whole thing is basically that, first off, they're based on three attributes that match the color of the kingdom they're from, which is like Wu, Wei, and Shu. Don't ask me which one was which, I can't remember. I'm pretty sure Wu was red, right? Like, wasn't this led by Cao Cao? I don't remember. Was this was Wei, I think. No. I'm not good with Chinese history. I'm also not good with Chinese names, so I'm sorry if I mispronounce some of these, but I just think these guys are super cool. I've been working on this deck for a little while now. I think it's a pretty neat little board breaker thing, where the whole idea is that you want to go second. You let your opponent build up their stuff, and then just like, okay, you're done, I'm gonna summon this guy, I'm gonna summon this guy, I'm gonna summon this guy, and then just pop, spin, bounce, go away. Well, maybe not spin, but bouncing most certainly. And then I'm gonna, whatever's left, I will crush it to pieces and punch you in the face. And that's basically the idea of this deck. It's a go second board breaker, which is also why we're running some Kaijus. And is it the best build of even just Ancient Warriors? Probably not, no, but I'm having a lot of fun with it, so I figured I would show it, and hey, maybe you would like it too. Maybe you could build upon it, maybe you could suggest some changes I can make. And the main reason I think this could be a pretty decent rogue deck in the future, if it gets more support along the lines of this guy, Lou Fang, who we will get to in just a minute. But for now, let's get to the other monsters. And again, if you would like to see this deck in action, let me know. Maybe I'll make a deck quest on it, I don't know. But if you'd like to see it, let me know, I guess. I don't know. Let's actually get into the deck. First up, we have the 3 copies of Masterful Sun Mo. Again, I don't know how to pronounce Chinese names very well, so I apologize in advance. It's a level 4 water with 1800 attack and 1500 defense. He has some decent protection from battle, as long as you have another guy, which you hopefully will, because these guys are huge and you want them on field. And you'll get them pretty easily, because guess what he does? You can send a card from hand or field to grave to add an Ancient Warrior from your deck to your hand, except himself. Also, here's the other thing that makes this deck neat. If your other Ancient Warrior activates its effect, except during the damage step, you can target a monster your opponent controls and return it to the hand. So this guy is your Rhoda, and he also acts as a chainable compulsory, which is kind of interesting. I don't know if this resolves in a separate chain. Does this? I think it says activate. I don't know, rulings are weird. But the main idea behind this deck is that you want to swarm the field with a couple of these guys and use their disruption effects to like do spot removal and break your opponent's board, punch them for a little bit, and then see if they can make a comeback with all the disruption you can build up. And they can build up a decent amount of disruption, which I think is just really, really cool. And Sun Mo is, you know, he's probably the best one just in general. At first I thought it was this guy, Liu Xuan, a level 4 wind with 1400 attack, and if you control another Ancient Warrior, your opponent can't attack this guy, which is nice, because he's like the weakest one so far. Also, here's why you want to go second. If this guy's in your hand, check out what he does. If your opponent controls more monsters than you do, which they hopefully will, because this is a go second deck, you can send a card from your hand or field to the grave to special summon an Ancient Warrior from the deck, except himself. So he gets you anything you need, which is nice. You can summon like Sun Mo, you could get this guy, you could get this guy, you could get this guy. He's pretty cool. You could also get this guy. You could just get a whole bunch of guys. That's the idea. And at first I thought this guy was probably the best card in the archetype, but then I was like, no, Sun Mo is probably better in most situations, because yeah, he just searches, he doesn't summon one. This one can be used first turn, and it doesn't rely on your opponent to have more monsters than you, so he is really cool, and I definitely recommend running him at 3, but maybe hopefully get Sunmo if you don't have this guy in hand and you use Tenki or something, I don't know. He's really strong. Also, his second effect says that when an attack is declared involving another ancient warrior you control, which doesn't even have to be the monster attacking, like they could just attack your ancient warrior and this will still trigger, you can draw a card just for free. Like, oh hey, I'm gonna go punch that guy, cool, I'll draw you a card. That's nice, I like that. Next up, we also have 3 copies of Graceful Lu Gong, who's pretty much the same as Sun Mo, except he gets you your spell traps. And why do you want to do that? Well, because much like Fire Fist, they kind of revolve around continuous spells, and also their continuous spells like being sent to the grave, so that's why all these guys so far have said, send thing from hand or field to grave to do a thing. However, with this guy, you have to send a continuous spell trap specifically. And if you do, you can add a different one from your deck to your... Actually, it's not even a different one. You could just add anything. So you could just get a copy if you want. Also, if your other Ancient Warrior activates its effect, you can target an effect monster your opponent controls and negate its effects until the end of the turn. Not as impactful as Sun Mo, but still very powerful in its own right. So if you have this and Sun Mo on field, that's a bounce and a negate, and you just need like one other thing to get it started. That's kind of a problem with this deck, but we'll get to that later. Then we have 2 copies of Ancient Warrior. I don't need to say that part. Ingenious Juga Kong. Juga Kong? I don't know how to pronounce Chinese things. It is also level 4 Wind, which means you do have access to a rank 4 toolbox, which is kind of neat. And if it's added from your deck to your hand by the effect of an Ancient Warrior, like Sun Mo, then you get to special summon it, just for free. Also, when a spell or trap card is activated, as a quick effect, you can send a face-up Ancient Warrior's continuous spell trap you control to the grave to negate the activation. Also, if your opponent activates a monster effect while you have Lu Xuan on the field, you can do the same cost and negate it. So and both of these effects are separate once per turn. So as long as you have fuel and you have Liu Xuan, you have a spell trap negate and a monster negate. That's pretty cool on a monster that can special summon itself through a variety of different means. And by that I mean like 2, but that's still pretty awesome. So yeah, he's pretty awesome. Then we also have a Deceptive Xiao Wen. It sounds like a 90s thing, like Xiao Wen, I don't know. It lets you target, I don't see a lot of people play this card, but I actually think it's pretty neat, so I'm using it as a one-off. It lets you send a continuous spell trap you control to the grave and have the attack of 2 face-up monsters on the field until the end of the turn. This doesn't target, and that's the main reason I'm playing it. It's just because it doesn't target anything. It lets you have something, lets you have 2 things for free. Oh, your Dragoon negated one thing and now it's at 4k? Well, okay, I'm gonna send one of these guys, slash. You're at 2k now. Punch over him. That's pretty cool. And also, if a card your opponent controls is destroyed by battle or card effects, you can target an Ancient Warrior card in your grave and add it to your hand. Again, that's another thing. Like, the whole thing is that you want them to be on the field in multiples, or at least together, so that you can get interactions between them from destroying stuff and activating effects, and that's the idea. So definitely not a mandatory thing to have in a deck, but I think it's pretty cool. Next up we have Valiant Zhong D. Zhong D? I think it's Zhong D. He's a level 7 Wind with 2700 attack and 900 defense, and it gains 300 attack for each monster your opponent controls during your turn only. And if you control 2 or more Ancient Warrior monsters, you can just slap it down on field. It's like Double X Saber Fall Troll, I think that's the card. And also, while it's on field, if your opponent still controls more monsters than you, which means they need to be controlling like 4, unless you linked the first 2 away, whatever. This card can make up to 2 attacks on monsters during the battle phase, and depending on how far behind you are, this guy's just gonna get bigger and deal more damage. Again, I think this is probably one of the better ones if you aim to swarm the field. It doesn't really have a lot of interactions with Sunmo or Juga Kong. Wait, actually, does this activate? Yeah, it does activate. So you can say, hey, I activate his effect to attack twice and be like, oh, a thing happened, I'm gonna bounce a card. Oh, a thing happened, I'm gonna negate a card. Oh, you're gonna attack, I'm gonna draw a card. That's pretty cool. And what does this do? Oh, you destroyed something, I'm gonna get back something from the grave. And that's the idea. So you could play 2 of him. I certainly have tried playing 2 of him. I think I cut him out for some more back row, but definitely an interesting card to have. Next up we have the level 6 Fearsome Zhang Yuan. Zhang Yuan? I'm not sure. Ancient warrior monsters you control can't be destroyed by battle, except him. And also, he's like super honest. Like he's, well, maybe not super honest, but he's a type of honest for the deck, which is really neat. During the start of the damage step, if your ancient warrior battles an opponent's face-up monster, special summon this card from the hand, and if you do, your opponent's monster loses 1,000 attack. And if a card your opponent controls is destroyed by battle or card effect, destroy something they control. So like, oh, thing destroyed, I'm gonna destroy that. Oh, a thing happened, I'm gonna bounce something. Oh, a thing happened, I'm gonna negate an effect. Oh, you attacked, I draw a card. So I just really like the interactions between the different monsters in the deck. And now, we got this guy. Rebellious Lu Feng. The only other 3 of, because, I mean, outside of the 3 that you really need to build the deck around, because he's free. He is just free stuff. He's a free level 8, 2800 beat stick that you can summon for free. He can't be normal summon, but who's normal summoning a level 8 monster these days? And it's special summon from your hand while you control a monster with the highest attack among ancient warriors on the field. Which basically means, hey, if you have an ancient warrior and your opponent doesn't, you get to summon him for free. So he's kind of like Zhong D, except he doesn't need you to have 2, he just needs you to have the strongest ancient warrior. And I think it includes itself. Yeah, it includes itself, so like you can only summon it once per turn this way. But its second effect is not once per turn. It's not a hard once per turn, at least. Once per main phase, meaning during both main phase 1 and 2, quick effect, destroy the strongest monster your opponent controls. That's it, that's all he does. It doesn't target, it just, I mean, sure, it destroys, but it doesn't target, it's just the strongest monster they have. Okay, bye, and then they're gonna be like, oh, thing happened. They just do things. This thing lets you destroy another card. This thing lets you do another thing. It's just really cool. This thing, I don't want to say it ties the deck together, but the fact you do have a disruption just for free on a body this huge is really good because it triggers your other monster's effects, which is really awesome. Also, he does, of course, have some kind of weird drawback, but I actually kind of like it just for thematic reasons. During the end phase, if your opponent controls a face-up monster with the highest attack, you give control of it to your opponent, which is very fitting for a card based on Lubu, what was his name? Approaching Thunder or something. Look up Lubu. He was a cool guy. He wasn't a cool guy. He was probably a massive jerk, but still, he's neat. And I just love how they incorporated that into the card. So that's just really awesome. Also, you might think, wow, giving your opponents this thing for free, that would stink. But no, because if they use his pop effect, it locks you out of monster effects except Ancient Warriors for the turn. So they can technically use it, but they're locked out of literally every other monster effect they have, which is pretty funny if they decide to use it. So yeah, he's just a really awesome card, and I'm glad we got it. And if we continue to get support like this for the deck, I could honestly see this being a pretty solid rogue contender in the future. Maybe not like super meta or anything like that, but at least a fun budget option if you're being like, hey, I want to make a unique deck that's good at going second. If we get more stuff like Lou Fang, that could happen. So that's all the Ancient Warriors we have. You can mess around. There are some here in the side deck, like Loyal Guan Yun, who's the Cyber Dragon, and kind of a Pankratops, however you pronounce that. And also, if your opponent controls more monsters than you, target a monster they control and destroy it. You can max out on these if you want, but personally I thought it was more important to have an abundance of back row cards to fuel their effects, and also I just wanted to use these guys instead. So you can use him if you want. I fully recommend trying it out, a bunch of different builds, because these guys are pretty weird. They're fun to mess around with. And there's also Ambitious Xiao D. This guy is really huge. He's 3k attack, level 8, fire, he's just massive. And while you control another Ancient Warrior, your opponent can't target this with card effects, and it can't be destroyed by card effects, which is pretty good protection. And you can only use each of his effects once per turn. If a card your opponent controls is destroyed by battle or card effect, send a card from hand or field to grave to special summon this from hand. And when this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you can special summon that monster to your field in defense position. Really strong card. I might add him in if I decide to update this build later and I mess around with him a little bit. But again, I kind of just wanted to... I didn't feel like he was really necessary for this deck's strategy. You could totally put him in if you want, but like, again, I encourage you to use this more as a base and get an idea for what the deck's about, rather than follow it word for word. So feel free to mess around with these two and the other Ancient Warriors, because I'm not using every single one, but they are neat. Then we got some Kaijus, just Mothra, whichever one this thing's based on, and Gamera, that's what that thing's name is. Just really solid go second cards. You could say why not run like Nibiru or something. You could, but also that wouldn't really work for this style of deck because we do want to go second. We are a go second deck. But we also want our opponents to have more than one monster. So it's a weird position where we want them to have enough for cards like Liu Xuan and Valiant Zhong D to work, but we also don't really want them to have something that's just completely impossible to get past. And also Kaijus are just a good out to everything. Just like Feather Duster, I'm glad we have it back at 1. I need to get a copy of this in real life. Just gets rid of pesky back row before you start making your plays, which is always nice. Now we get on to the continuous spells, which these are actually pretty dang awesome. We'll start with their weird sort of Rhoda thingy, 3 visits. So during your main phase, if you normal or special summon an Ancient Warrior, target that monster, add an Ancient Warrior with a different name from deck to hand. So like let's say you normal summon Sun Mo, you can use this to get Juga Kong, and then use his effect to send this card to the grave to search any other Ancient Warrior. And also they like being sent to the grave, like that's the thing. Unlike the older Fire Fist cards, which we do still play because they're good generic Beast Warrior support, these cards actually give you benefits for spending them, so that's pretty nice. If this one, 3 visits, is sent to the graveyard from the spell and trap zone, not your hand, you can special summon an Ancient Warrior from your hand. So, you know, search something with Sun Mo using it as cost, and then when you add it to your hand, you get to summon it for free. So that's pretty awesome. Next up, we have a borrowing of arrows. Target a phase-up monster your opponent controls and an Ancient Warrior you control, and until the end of this turn, it basically does that Dark Rebellion Exceed Dragon thing where you half the monster's attack and add it to your warrior. Not a bad effect, but it's not as good as 3 visits or this one, which I'll get to in a little bit, which is absolutely stupid. And also, its graveyard effect is actually pretty neat. If it's sent to the grave while you control Ancient Warriors with 2 or more different attributes, you can just place any Ancient Warrior continuous spell from your deck in your spell and trap zone. So that's cool, it just fetches you an extra thing. But you need a little bit of field setup. So, that's cool. Next up we have Southeast Wind, or rather East by South Winds, according to the actual translation. This card's weird. Like, it is super weird, but I'll explain why it's awesome. It has to be sent to the graveyard during your second standby phase after activation, and you want this to be sent to the grave, because it actually gives you an effect to send it to the grave. Once per turn, you can flip a coin. If it's heads, send it to the grave. If it is sent from the spell and trap zone to the grave, this turn, your opponent can't activate cards or effects in response to the activation of your Ancient Warrior cards and effects. Also, until the end of the turn, all Ancient Warrior monsters you control, when you sent this to the grave, it's a weird ruling, gain this effect. When this card declares an attack, destroy a card your opponent controls. This card's absolutely stupid. I love it. That's why we're running it at 3. Then we also have triple Tenki because it's Beast Warrior Rhoda on top of our Rhoda, which can send the Rhoda and also summon something. So that's pretty cool. And then Tensu, because you want to have multiple ancient warriors, like I've been saying, so that they can interact with each other, but they're not super great at swarming the field right now, outside of like Lou Fang and certain interactions with Juga Kong. So you kind of need the extra normal summon. And also, you know, you mostly want to get them out anyway. Most of the monsters we run are level 4 because they just have really solid effects. Again, bounce, negate, draw a card, negate, just halving stuff. It's just great. So you do want the extra normal summon. And again, unlike something like, I don't know, Bujins or Yosenju or whatever, unlike a lot of other Beast Warrior decks, you send these for cost to, with the Ancient Warriors, because not all of them say that you have to send specifically Ancient Warrior cards. And you can add in draw spells or something like that. I don't think I'd recommend Desires, but people will run Desires anyway. I'll enter the trap cards, just Infinite Impermanence 3 of, just because we're going second. Might as well. But the only continuous trap we're running, that you don't have to, but it's cool, is A Man's Honor, which sounds really neat. Ancient Warriors would be destroyed by battle. You could send this card to the grave instead, so it saves them from a fight. That's cool. You can only use each of the following effects once per turn. If your opponent special summons a monster, you can special summon a token. So use it for link plays or something. When a card or effect is activated that targets Ancient Warriors on the field, banish this card from the grave, negate that activation. So that's nice. It gives you some pretty solid targeting protection for your guys. So, and you can place it directly with borrowing of arrows. You can just... It's not great, but it is a pretty neat utility card. And now we're going to move on to the extra deck, starting with the only one we really need in the deck. I mean, you could totally run Pot of Extravagance if you want, or the new one, Pot of Disparity, and that is Ancient Warriors, Allied Generals, or rather, Ancient Warrior Oath. I tend to look at the picture before the words. Ancient Warrior Oath, Double Dragon Lords, which makes me think of the video game series. It's made of 2 Beast Warriors, including a Wind Ancient Beast Warrior, Ancient Warrior, whatever. So it's mostly just Xuan, Kong, and D. And this thing's really great. Ancient Warriors you control gain 500 attack and defense. They all get a nice boost to punch over things harder. And once per turn, if this card is summoned, you can add an Ancient Warrior card from your deck to your hand. So it's another Rhoda on top of your Rhoda, on top of your Rhoda, on top of your Rhoda, that can send your Rhoda to search something, and then this thing will summon it. It's a neat chain of interactions. And also, quick effect, send a card from hand or field to grave, target a face-up card your opponent controls, return it to the hand. Oh, a thing happened, I'm gonna bounce a thing. Oh, a thing happened, I'm gonna negate something. You get the idea, right? Like this card is fantastic. And again, it's really the only extra deck monster that you need. Considering, like Lou Fang, it does facilitate interactions between your other Ancient Warriors. So this card is just fantastic. And again, if you send these things, you get more stuff. Like, imagine using this to send 3 visits and then just slapping down another Lou Fang and being like, oh, what now? I get 2 pops during every main phase. What are you gonna do about that? Nothing. You're gonna do nothing. I'm gonna punch you so freaking hard with all my huge dudes. Look at this guy. He's riding a giant demon horse. Look at this thing. It's ridiculous. So yeah, he's pretty cool. And the rest are just like random toolbox card things you can take out. I tried running Pot of Disparities. It worked pretty well, since most of the time I would rather just pick one specific monster while saving the one I need, rather than risking just banishing all of this, because I have a bad history with that. We also got Tri-Brigade Farragut, the Baron Blossom, Nightmare Corn, the Link 3 Tri-Brigade, the Big Soldier of Chaos, because we can summon these higher level guys fairly easily. The Link 4, which is pretty funny, a Boral Sword, just cuz, and then we also have a small rank 4 toolbox option, which we can do pretty easily. You know, activate Tenki, get Sunmo, summon Sunmo, send Tenki, get Juga Kong summons himself, you slap them together, make any rank 4 you want. So it's a nice little toolbox of things. You feel free to add, subtract, whatever you want. Abyss Dweller, Extinction Knight, because again, we do want them to have more cards, but sometimes we want them to just blow up everything. Castel for spot removal, as if we don't have enough of that already. Tornado Dragon for back row removal, because I don't think we have much of that in the main deck. And then Utopia and Lightning, just for the huge things we can't get over. But that's pretty much the deck. It's pretty cool. At least I think so. I've been talking for so long about this. I need to get faster at this. And in the side deck, I also have this neat engine that I found. Basically, you guys are all Beast Warriors except for the Kaiju, so you can tech in the Tri-Brigade engine to summon Bird of Sovereignty, which is pretty interesting. Basically, you discard Fractar, send Nerval to grave, then get Karis, and then use Karis effect to discard one of your guys, summon himself, banish these 2 plus whatever you discarded, summon this, and then you can summon this during the end phase to lock everyone out of everything but wind. And again, the one extra deck card we need is wind, so it's not really a big problem. And you can put this in if you are going in a more competitive environment. So that's a really good first turn play if you want to tech this in. I didn't really want to, just because I don't know, again, I'm not very good at building decks, but I just build things that I think are neat. So anyway, I've been talking for far too long about a bunch of cards that probably are not relevant. I just think these guys are neat, and I hope we get more support for them sometime soon. Maybe another Link monster, maybe another monster like Lou Fang, which just offers simple, quick removal so that you can proc the other effects. That'd be pretty sweet. But right now, I just think they are a very neat little going second board breaker deck that just lets you sit back and be like, okay, yeah, you just keep doing your thing, and then I will tear everything you love to the ground and then stomp on it. I don't know where I was going with that, but anyway, that's the deck. If you liked it, let me know if you liked it. If you have any suggestions for changes you would make or decks you want to see me try to build, let me know. But for now, that's going to be all. Thanks for visiting here at my house of cards, and I'll see you next time. Bye!